This time on Boner Revivals, I find another Facebook Marketplace deal that I just can't pass up on. And I drag home Cutlass number 3. I'm not addicted, I can stop at any point. I just choose not to. Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm addicted to Facebook Marketplace. Hi, I'm Robert, and welcome to Boner Revivals. In traditional fashion. Stopped at Harbor Freight number 2 on the day. Checking some straps out. I think we're ready to roll and get Cutlass number 3. Yeah, that's right, I said 3. But ready to keep on rolling home and get another one in the driveway. I'm gonna be single by the end of the day. Once again here with the Cutlass. Stopping at the Fine Wine and Good Spirit store. I needed another project car like I needed a hole in the head, but here it is. This is supposedly a 1984 Oldsmobile Cutlass, but let's get it rolled in the shop and let's start digging in on this thing. Alrighty, let's dive into this thing. So honestly, this car reminds me a lot of the black car when we first drug it home. The interior is pretty much completely gutted out of it. And typical for these cars, the driver's side floor pan is absolutely destroyed and gone. There is nothing good left of that. But there is a dash in it. And as you guys know, the dash that was out of the black car is currently in the race car. So this dash will probably end up in the black car to kind of complete the black car a little bit. The buckets that are just laying in here, the guy was a super awesome dude. We got talking and I asked him about the seat. And just from kind of seeing this car, it was most likely a bench seat car, especially with it being column shift car. So I got talking to him. He's like, oh, I do have a set of buckets, upstairs in the attic of my shop if, you want that. So we worked out a deal. He threw them in with the car. So those are awesome. Those will end up in the black car. But let's get into the really, really good stuff. So the biggest reason why I wanted this car and what initially drew me in is somebody went ahead and swapped a small block Chevy into it, whether it's a 305 or a 350. The whole game plan with this drivetrain, it's a small block Chevy with a turbo 350 in it. Basically what the game plan is this whole drive line is going to get tossed in the race car for now. So the race car is actually a running, driving, movable vehicle. Plus that's going to motivate me a lot more to work on it. The whole front clip, the hood, the fenders, the waterfall nose, we got a front bumper for it. All this kind of stuff is stuff that I had pieces of, and it was kind of split between the race car and the black car. Obviously, about a year ago, we robbed the whole front clip off of the black car, threw it on the race car. Well, now we have a front bumper and a rear bumper and all that stuff to kind of throw back together on the black car to make the black car, a complete car. These doors are okay, but the nice part is that these are crank windows, which is what I want preferably in the race car. There is some goodies in the trunk. Let's go take a walk back and see what we got in the trunk. So the decal is kind of not good, but that's all right. We have plenty of those already in stock, but a bunch of goodies in here. We got the taillights here, which looking at these taillights, might not even be an 84 looking at these taillights here because the line down the center I think was an early 80s deal. Not 100% sure on that, but there's the waterfall, center grille inserts. We got the door panels here. Trying to unbury these headers. What is that box? Kind of saw this buried earlier. What? Got stuff for it. Oh. It's an MSD box. Oh, yeah. That honestly is probably worth the purchase of the car, honestly, right there. That is awesome. Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's kind of covered in some dust and dirt and some rat turds, but I'm sure she'll come around. Bearing it here, can I be aggressive and just go for a header at this point? These look rather fancy. I don't see a name on them. Unfortunately, they did kind of beat the snot out of them, but if these will fit and work, well then they're going on the car. Before we get too much further in this, I'd like to actually run some numbers on this, see what this car actually was by verifying the VIN, and I'd like to find out what this actually is. It's either 305 or a 350, but getting some casting numbers off the block and off the head is gonna basically confirm that for us. So I took the time to decode the VIN, and then also check, there's also a tag here on the door. It did get oversprayed. So originally this car was white. Someone painted it blue, whatever color blue this is, but it was a Cutlass Supreme. It's actually an 81, which I was right on the taillights then that were in the trunk. So that's kind of cool. So it's an 81 Cutlass Supreme. It initially had a V6 in it, and it was initially made by our neighbors up north in Canada. So I could see why they stuffed, you know, this small block in it with the Turbo 350. So the casting number on the head says it's a 450 head. And then if we come back in here, we're gonna have a casting number there, 460778. From what I can find on it, this would be a 305. Which, was I hoping it was a 350? Yeah, kinda, but in the same breath, I have a dime a dozen 350s, and we have yet to do a 305 build on the channel, so maybe we'll do a 305 build. So looking at that casting number, it's a 78 to 79 305, so kind of in the smog era there. Once again, they're 305 heads. They had a 172 intake and a 150 exhaust. And it looks like it's going to have a 60cc chamber size. So it's really not a bad little engine for what it is. As far as it goes, it looks like the timing cover's never been touched, so I doubt that there's a cam in it. Like I said, the guy said that there was a different intake and carb on it, and he put this carb intake on it. What I'm noticing about the carburetor, though, is that that's an electrically controlled carb, so that was probably fighting him a little bit. And then you could tell he was messing with the distributor. I popped some of the wires off, but it's not tightened down or anything. So let's start by pulling out the spark plug on cylinder number 1. Let's roll it up to TDC. Check where our rotor is. If it's pointing at the right location, where we just dictate number 1 to be on the cap, we'll go from there, see if we have spark, and then I guess we'll shoot some fuel down it and see if it barks off. Just rolled spark plug number 1 out. This thing looks brand spanking new, so I rolled it up and lined up our timing tab. Now you do have to be careful with that, because we have had issues in the past where, you know, if balancers are old and stuff, they'll actually split, so a timing tab won't line up. But according to where this pick is, that's piston, that's pretty much all the way up. And then looking at our distributor here, she's 180 out. Basically, we'll loosen our distributor clamp, we'll pick it up, swing it around to where our rotor is going to be lined up where with our cap where we want it. Alright, I got the alternator kind of half-a figured out. Didn't bother throwing a fan on it because honestly we're gonna have to be taking it back off in short term anyway. We also went ahead and straightened out the power steering pump. That was a little wonky. It still looks to be a little off, but it's way better than what it was, and now it's not missing any hardware. So distributor straightened out. All right, I'm gonna spin it over here. Battery's kind of dead, so I'm gonna have to charge it here, but I just wanted to see with the jump pack on it if it's sparking or not. Nope. Okay, so we do have spark. Good. Well, we're done. This thing's dumping oil out of the bottom of the... Holy smokes. Oh. Well, whoever put this filter on decided not to put the gasket on. So now there's oil all over my floor. Awesome. Gonna be burning up through the degreaser today. Alrighty. I slammed one of my extra brand new filters on it, so it shouldn't be dumping oil out of it anymore. I did get a little sploogey with the, the old 1540 there, but we'll just ignore that. Wanted to make sure that she was topped off, so, it didn't blow it up when it finally decides to run. So here's our base. The one thing I did notice earlier is that it's broke, and the only part that stinks about it being broke exactly where it is that's where the notch for the cap sits. So I've been kind of setting the cap, and like I said, we lined it up with our paint marks, and I've been doing that. But I have another base that I think I'm going to throw in it. The other thing I noticed too is that these weights seem to be all sorts of janky and floppy as well. Distributor's all back together. I went around and just made sure that I verified that we don't have any vacuum leaks on the carb, and if there's like one or two things that might be leaking, so I put caps on them, so maybe it'll fire off now. Advance it a little bit. Why is the battery going dead? Literally just charged it. So I went ahead and cleaned up all the battery terminals and all that stuff, and this thing still does not want to crank, and this battery's fine. So as much as I don't want to, I think we're calling under there and putting another starter on it. Just taking a look at this exhaust here, and what in the Bob the Builder is this? Oh, it's right on part of what I do. So here's our starters. Obviously this one's the different old school style. Definitely 70s-esque deal. The nice part is that on that block, it's already drilled for the offset. So hopefully this one will just slide in. I hope anyway. Wow. An hour later and a starter that's not the right one. So now I'm trying to mangle starters together. This is the whole drive system out of the one that was in this car, and it's pretty whooped. The brushes and stuff are just... the brushes, there's a little bit left to them, but it's just so incredibly worn. So I even saw that on the inside of the cup here for the plunger. That's all sorts of torn up. So the question is, do I pull that starter out of it and rip that nose cone off and put this nose cone on it, since this is obviously the correct nose cone? That's probably going to be my best bet, because that is literally a brand new starter. I bought that for the S10. Oh, I didn't even see that. The nose cone's actually broken. What was going on here, fellers? What were we doing? Just beating the snot out of everything. That definitely wasn't me. I didn't drop it. So that's been broken. Oh my God. I can't help but laugh, because if I'm not laughing, I'll be crying, so. Okay, officially 2 hours later, and we finally have a starter to put back in the car. Let's get in there and hope that it works. So basically what ended up really happening here is this body of the new one wouldn't work with this nose cone. So I had to use the old nose cone in the old body, but I did put the new drive unit, and there's like a newer-ish, better solenoid. Hopefully it all works. Probably not, but let's get it in there, and I guess we'll see what happens. That does not sound good. I tried piecing together 60 different starters, and yeah, none of them wanted to work any better than that one. And the hard part is there's differences between the bodies and then the brushes inside and everything else. So we were swapping bodies and everything else, trying to swap nose cones. This is one that I bought when we initially did the 283 build. This was an Amazon deal, and it stopped working. Well, I know why, because there's a plastic gear in here and it shredded the plastic gear. So that one's some garbage. Alrighty, way too many hours later. 6 different rebuilt starters just to clean up the old one and put it back in, assembled. for it to work a little better than it worked before. Let's, I don't know, let's just hit the key and see what happens. I've been over the timing 67,000 times. You know, we should be seeing something happen there. This is quadrant number 3 that we're on. This is the one that was on the 283. And I knew it functioned pretty well for it being on 6 different motors at this point in its life. So we threw that one on and kind of made some improvement, kind of didn't make any improvement, but at least I knew that one worked. I robbed the whole entire cap, rotor, ignition module, coil, the whole entire assembly for the distributor just to try to equal out that we have nothing going on with the distributor, and it still ain't going. And every time I try to crank this thing, the starter sounds like it's ready to just keel over and die. So yeah, we need to get another starter. We need to throw it in this, and hopefully that'll make some improvements to our lives. Alrighty, new starter has arrived, out with the junk and in with hopefully what will solve our issues, even though the motor's probably blown up and you know, whatever. But we're gonna stay positive. We're gonna throw it in there and see what happens. New starter is in. That is immensely better. This thing's really starting to aggravate me, actually. You know what? Let's step away and let's go let off some steam. Yeah. Alright, well, I hate to do this, but I think we're going to throw in the towel on this. The brand new starter just stopped working, so I end up pulling it apart, looking it over, seeing if I can make it work. And it doesn't want to work, so... And I think that we have something going on here with the engine. Now, I could have done a compression test. I could have done this. I could have done that. But typically with these small block Chevys, if it has fuel and it has spark and the timing is set correct, if this thing was going to run, it would have. So I was really hoping to get this little 305 running in this car because I also wanted to make sure the trans worked. But the way it's acting, the way it keeps backfiring out of the car profusely, tells me that there is some severe timing issues that are not distributor related. And the more and more I started thinking about this, the more and more I realized there's a reason why certain things were the way they were in this car. The guy that I bought it off of said he couldn't get it running. There was an extra coil and a distributor cap in the trunk. He put a new water pump on it. Obviously the oil was changed recently. They forgot to put the, you know, the gasket on. So it was profusely dumping oil everywhere. I mean, there's brand new spark plugs in it. Like, there's so many signs that someone else was in here messing with it before we even got to it. Man, it still spins over, so I'm not going to say it's blown up, but something internally is definitely not right. Either cam, lifter, timing related. We fought the same thing, and the 283 actually acted the same way when we first got the 283. So I have a sneaking suspicion of what's going to be wrong with this little 305. Really hate to do this, but time. I'm losing it. I have way too much time involved with this thing. The next time we come back and we're doing G-body Cutlass stuff, we're going to be gutting this thing, gutting all the goods out of it, and making the race car a complete car again. I am super excited for that. And then we're also going to be, you know, pulling the 305 and a turbo 350 out of it, and we're going to be doing a 305 teardown, and depending on how it goes down, we might be doing a build. And of course, we're the home of the budget builds around here, so we'll probably be doing some sort of a budget build on this 305. So if you guys are excited for that, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Get out in the shop, start wrenching on your projects. Your dreams will not work unless you do. And sometimes, well, they just don't work at all. But just keep putting in the effort. You'll make headway at some point, right? So make sure you do that for me. And if you guys got a project, let me know down in comment sections what you guys are working on. I would love to hear what you guys are working on. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time here on Boneyard Revivals. Take care.